week we went through arrays, right? So arrays are collections of objects, or also collections of let's say grouping of objects or primitive types, right? But when we talk about arrays, there are a couple of problems. One of the problems is that it is fixed size. So whenever you create an array, it needs a size. Okay, so let's see something. Okay, here. So yeah, you see, you create an array with a size of 4, and then this is the same. We create an array with a size of 4, and also we initialize it. But what if we don't know how many objects will be there? Like, we don't want to create an array and then fill it out, and then okay, let's duplicate the size or whatever we can do, and then whenever it's full again, let's create another array. So that's a problem. So the most important problem of array is it is fixed, right? So and then the second thing is, let's say if you have an array, in this case you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you want to insert, let's say 5 between 3 and 4, so if you want to insert 5 here, it's very complicated. We did it last week. So when you, like in this example here, array insert, so what do we have to do? If we have to insert something in between these two numbers, we have to loop through the array and then move all the objects. So we have to create a larger array, or we can just delete the last object or the last element of the array, and then we have to move to shift 0, have to go here, 83 has to go here, 14 has to go here, and then until we find the index, and then we insert the number there. So if we want to insert in between an array, or if we want to delete something from in between the array, it's very complicated. We have to do a lot of code, right? So that's why they have created collection as a framework, and then collection is an interface. It is implemented by other interfaces. So list is another interface, set is another interface, and then queue is another, or stack is another interface, and then those interfaces are implemented. So let's say list, which is the most commonly used, is implemented by array list or linked list, and then we have set, which is implemented by hash set, and so on. So let's create, and then I want to jump directly into examples, right? So again, so if we create an array list, we can the array list can grow and shrink very easily, and we can insert something in between the array or remove something from the array. Okay, so let's create Java review 7, and then 7. Sorry, we have to create a package, right? New package. Okay, and then in the package, let's create a new class. Okay, so the most important thing is like creating an array list or whatever implementation of the collection. Okay, so creating it, initializing it with the values, and then inserting values and removing values from there. Okay, so manipulating the array list or any other class. So let's say let me just create a class about initialize, right? Initialize array list. Okay, but that's the same for, let's say, for hash set and for other objects, right? So they have common methods. So whatever method is in collection interface will also be in the list interface and set interface and stack, whatever are the others. And then after that one, of course, you can add some extra features in list or set, and then list is implemented by array list and linked list. So whatever methods are in list interface should be in array list and linked list. So you can add other methods and features, let's say, but it should have whatever the parent has. Okay, so whenever is an interface which is implemented, whatever methods are there have to be implemented, have to be defined by the class that is implementing the interface. So there are a lot of ways. One of the ways is like we always do. We can say list, or we can say array list, right? Of course, you have to have a main first. Always, I forget about main, and then this is easy. So if you import, I don't know, I'm lazy, and that's why I do this one. Import java.util.star. It means that you are importing all the classes that are under Java util. So you don't need to import Java util array list, Java util list, Java util set, whatever. If you import Java util.star, so you're importing all the classes that are in that package, in Java util package. Okay. So sometimes it's easier if we start this way, and then we can say list of, let's say, strings, right? So whenever we create an object of a list or any collection, list or set or and then array list, which is implementing that one, we have to give an object, right? So we say a string of list of strings, right? Can we have list of integers as primitive type? Everybody says no, right? So it has to be an object. That's why wrapper classes are introduced. So you cannot say a list of if you want to have a list of integers, you have to say a list of integers, which is a class. If we click on this one and go to the declaration, integer is a class that extends number, and then inside the integer there is of course an integer inside this class. Okay, so list of, let's say, list of strings, integers, any class, or list of employees, students, whatever classes we have created. And then let's say list one is equal to new array list. Okay, so if we say, we can also, after I think Java 7, they said, okay, if you're saying list of strings, you don't need to say strings here again, because we already know that it's array list of strings. So you can just delete this one, or you can leave it, doesn't matter. And then since list is the parent of array list, so you can have a list of strings, and then you can say new array list or new linked list, right? Linked list. So these two, both of these classes implement the parent class, which is an interface. Both of them implement list. So that's why we can declare a list and then create an object of any children classes. Okay. So, or we can say, if we know that we'll have array list, we can say array list string, and then this one. Both are used. Okay. So if we say list here, this is about encapsulation, polymorphism, whatever. So you are actually polymorphism. So you are having a variable of the parent class, and you're creating an object of the child class. Okay, so that's why if you want to change from array list to let's say linked list, you can change it later. You don't need to create a new variable. You can use the same variable. Okay, that's why it's more flexible if you say list of strings, but still we can also say array list. Okay, too much information. So this creates an empty list, right? So in this case, list is not null. List, in this case, list one is not null. If I say list and then just comment out this one, now list is null. Okay, is equal to null. Okay, so there is not a list. There is not an array list. It's just null. But if we say new array list, okay, so we're saying, okay, now we created an object and then we assign to this one, but still this object is empty, but there is an object, okay? So list now, list dot size, okay, list one dot size, okay? So that's size is one of the methods, of the list interface, or also one of the methods of the parent, which is the collection interface. So now the size is 0. Why? Because you have a list, you have a collection, but there's nothing inside. So let's say, we give the example of, let's say we have a collection of stamps, right, for the envelopes, or a collection of let's say CDs. We used to have collection of CDs, what you put in there. And then if you have a collection but there is no CDs there, so it's an empty collection, but still there is an object there, okay? So the size is, in this case, the size is 0, but the array list is created. So after this one, you can add, you can say list one dot add, okay? So let's add, I don't know why this one is not helping me. Okay, so you can add, so since you said that you have a list of strings, you cannot add anything but only strings, okay? So this is also called, I forgot the name now, generics, right? So you are declaring here that you're saying, I will have a list of strings. So you can insert anything that is a string or child classes of strings. So let's say there is some other class which extends the class string, so you can also insert those objects, but you cannot insert integers, you cannot insert students, right? You can insert only strings and whatever are other classes that extend strings, okay? So in this case, you have to enter a string which is ABC, right? Whatever, or A. So let's make it short. Okay, and then after we print the size after this one, and then the size will be 1, right? Because now we have an object. Again, if we don't initialize it, as you can see, even the compiler tells us that you have not initialized list. So list doesn't have a size because you don't have a list. You have just the variable, but it is not initialized. If you say, you can trick it to say equals to null. Okay, now it is null. Okay, and the compiler doesn't know that it is null because now you have to check. If you use this one, it will give an exception, right? Why? Because null doesn't have a size. So if you run this one, and then you'll see exception. Why? Because null doesn't have a size. So here you can say if list, that's how we check it, right? If we want to make sure that if list is not null, sorry. Okay, so if list is not null, then print the size. If it's null, don't print the size. Okay, so this one will be skipped because it is null, and then you can add, and then 1 will be added. Okay, so if list is not null, okay, of course, and again here, so list doesn't have a size because null doesn't have a size, and also list, you cannot add anything to null because it's null, you cannot add anything. Okay, so we skipped this one. Now it's given an error here in the 11th, so it is in this line. So we have an error here in this case. So if we create the object, now this one will be printed because list is not null. Okay, so if you run this one, list is null. No, it's not null because it's an object, it's an array object. You see, an object is created here. So when we say new, we have created an object. Okay, too much details. And then after we create the object, you can add elements, right? And then list dot add, oh, list, not list, but list one dot add, and then we can add B, and then list dot list one dot add, and then we have C, right? So this is one way of initializing a list, and then we have size is 3. So you create the object and then you add as much as you want. You can continue adding. There is no limits here. But for array, you have to tell at the beginning, okay, I have an array of 5 elements. So you can initialize the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth element. You cannot add any extra elements. Okay, and then and also you have insert, right? But let's go to them in detail later. So this is one way. Another way of doing this one is, again, so let me just do another one here. So list of strings, and then let's say list2. Okay, so this is the second way of initializing. And then you say new array list again, because you cannot say new list because list is an interface. And then here, so you create an object, and here is one way of doing this one is it's called double brackets, right? So you say add, and then what comes after C, D, right? After C comes D, add E, and then add F. Okay, so you can add this way. Okay, so it's like we have different ways of initializing arrays. So there we have different ways of initializing array strings. Okay, so I have not used this way too much, and then there might be I mean, this is one way of doing it. Okay, so there are other ways. So this is creating the array list first and then adding the elements. This is creating the list with the elements. So if you know at the beginning that you have these elements, you can just create them at the beginning, okay? And then you can keep adding later. And then let's say here, okay, let me put this one down. And guys, is the writing okay? Is this should I enlarge the text, or is it okay? Can you see it? Because sometimes the font is small and then people cannot see. Is it okay? Okay, if anybody has problems, just let me know, I can increase it, okay? Okay, so let's say we have list, okay. The bigger is better, okay. Now better. More bigger. And then we can print this one. There are different ways of printing it, okay? So we printed the side, but also we can print the list, okay? So if we print the list in the first one, it will print the array with the elements inside, okay? So this is printing the list, or we can do a loop through it and then print all the elements in the loop, like this one. We can use for loop, we can use iterator, okay? So for loop, or this is enhanced for loop. So we say, okay, now we are looping through the list, okay? And then when I loop a list of strings, what I'll get? What do you think, guys? If I loop a list of strings, what are the objects that I'll get inside? If I iterate a list, a collection of music CDs, I'll find music CDs. If I loop a collection of eggs, I'll find eggs. If I loop a collection or a list of strings, I will find what? Just somebody write there, please. Yeah, my best student is typing there. Strings, of course. So if we'll iterate this one, we'll find strings, right? And then we can call it anything. So for every string in the list, right? For every string in the list, that's how we read this one. So we're iterating the list and we're finding the strings, and then we can just print the string, right? Okay, let me comment out. Oh, this is not writing anything. Okay, so this one prints out this way. Okay, so this is printing the array list. Okay, but if we use a for loop, we can print any way we want. We can say, okay, print string plus space or comma or I don't know, anything. And then here we can print them in the same line or in different lines, right? So here, as you can see, you can print, if we use a for loop or if we use an iterator, then you have the string and then you can print as you wish, okay? If you want to put, I don't want comma, but I want, what can it be? Semicolon, right? And space, or with no space. And then if we print it, as you can see, here is the list printed, okay? But if we print the list, the array list, it prints only this way. We cannot modify it. So it is it is implemented the toString method of the array list, okay? So we can also have a we can have a method here and say, okay, public static. Why do we say static? Because we don't want to create an object. We can just call directly the method and then print elements, right? Elements, or print list elements. So this method accepts as parameters list of strings, okay? List of strings. So you can give a list of strings, name it list, whatever, and then this will, and of course here, what is the return type? Void, because we only want to print it, okay? So this method gets as a parameter a list of strings and then just prints it, okay? So how do we print? We can print as we wish. We can say for, we can use enhanced for loop, or we can use iterator. Do you want me to use iterator? Yes, you're dying for me to use the iterator, right? So when we're using an iterator, whatever the list has inside, so this list has strings, so the iterator is also iterator of strings, okay? So you cannot say iterator of integers. Iterator of integers. And then list dot iterator. Why not? Because this list has strings. So also the iterator, you're iterating strings, okay? So you can copy the string here, paste it here, and then everything will be all right, okay? So now you have an iterator. So iterator, what does it do? It starts at the beginning and then next, it gets the next element, next, the next element. But how do we know if there is next element or not, right? Because if the list is like you reach the end of the list, you might have an array out of index, right, or whatever. And so that's why you can check. You can say while there is a next, while iterator has next. So this method doesn't get the next one, just checks if there is a next one or not, and gives you a true false. So as you can see here, Boolean. So the return type of this method is Boolean. So if there is a next, it returns true, so you can go. If there is no next, then it returns false, so you cannot go to the next one, okay? So while there is a next one, while there are still elements there, you can just iterator.next. This method has next, doesn't get the next element, just checks for the next if there is one or not. This one gets the next element and brings it to you. So if you're iterating strings, what will this one bring to you? Strings, right? So you're saying, okay, if we get the next element will be a string, okay? So we can say string str whatever is equal to iterator.next. So it means that you get the next element, whatever type of objects are inside the iterator, whatever type of object is inside the list, that's what will bring this one, okay? So now you say iterator.next, so it will bring you the next element, which is a string, okay? And then you can print it, you can do whatever you want with it. Let's just print it and then say not print line, but print at the same line. So if you say print ln, it prints to the next one. If you say print, it will print at the same line, and then str, plus, and then you can put a anything to. So I want to put a dash between the elements, okay? So for every element, it will print the element and then a dash, okay? So here we can use this method, right? So this method accepts a list of strings and then it will print this one. Doesn't matter whatever is inside there, okay? So here you don't need to say now for each, but you can say just print elements and give the list, okay? But these two, this one prints it with a dash, this one prints the array list. What is their implementation? If you go to array list and then to string method, I don't know if I can find two string methods here, but to string, okay, I don't know. Okay, so I cannot, maybe it's in the parent class, but anyways, so array list has a toString method. Whenever you print the list, it will run the toString method, okay? But this one prints it the way that we want. And then if we run this one, you can see, so first element, dash, second element, dash. So as you can see, this is more understandable, okay? So that's why we can use this one, okay? And then that's the same that the array list is doing. Okay, and of course, if you want to make it the same as this one, you have to print this one open brackets at the beginning, and then when you're done, you go back and you remove the last element because there is an extra comma there, and then you close it. Okay, so there's a little bit tricky if you want to do the same. So that's how we print the elements here. Okay. And then we said the second way is this one, right? So you create an array list and you give the elements here when you create it. Okay, and then after we're done, just let's print the list, and then again we can just give list2 here because we want to print whatever are the elements in list2. If we run, we have to, when we're done, print all the elements, we just go to the next line. Otherwise, it looks like they're at the same. Okay, so this prints the elements and then goes to the next line. So here, so this is the first list, this list, and then we are creating a second list, fill it with elements, and then we just print it. Okay. Okay, so this is a second way of creating array list and initializing it. Okay, another way of initializing array list is you can use, again, list of strings. You don't have to use all of them. You can use any of them, but you know, sometimes your co-workers they use it in different ways. So that's why if you know it, you have to understand it. It's not that you have to memorize all of them. You can just search in Google and find how are the ways to initialize an array list or a list or a collection. Okay, so list 3. This is a third way of initializing, and then okay, let me also put some comments here so that whenever you read them later, you'll understand. Okay, initialize using add, right? Method. This is the first one. Also, let me put here one, and then second, 2. Using shorthand. This is short. Version of add method. Okay. The third way, you can initialize it by using arrays as lists. So you can have an array, and then you can create a list from the array, right? So you can say arrays dot as list. Okay, arrays, not array, but arrays dot as list. And then you can give here an array. Okay, so you can just give. So we use D, so G, and then H, and then I, right? So you can use 3 elements. So this is one way. So initialize, let me copy paste this one. using arrays as list. So it gets an array and creates a list from the array, okay? But there is a problem here. This list is immutable. So we learned about immutable when we talked about strings, right? So we say string class is immutable, which means cannot be changed, cannot be mutated, okay? So what does it mean? So here, let's just print the elements here first. So do we really have 3 elements here? So let's print list 3. So we have, right? So this is the first list, second list, and third list, okay? So this created a list of elements, but it is immutable. What does it mean? So let's say if you want to add another one, so how do we add it? We use the first way, right? So list 3.add. So you want to add another element there and then say z, right? Let's add z there. And then if we run, it gives us an exception because this list you cannot add another element there because this is as list. So it like arrays is like same as arrays. So arrays has 3 elements, you cannot add any more elements. So this one, if we use this one, you cannot add any elements. What about set? Can we set one? Let me try this one. Yes. So as you can see, you cannot add any, but you can change because you know set method is you can change. Actually, I just tried it now. I haven't tried it earlier. So you have a list of strings, but you can only have 3 strings inside the list. Why? Because if you use the array as list method, this is immutable. So it means that you cannot add any other one, but you can change any of them. As you can see here, I changed the first one because this is index 0, 1, and I changed it to z, right? Or of course, also you can use you can have a string, right? An array of strings. So you can say string array and then call it array and then is equal to, you can initialize arrays as you want. You can just say new string 4, or you can just give the values here. So let me use the same g because we're using the same method g hi, right? H and then I. You can use anything there, right? I'm just kidding. I mean, you don't have to use, but to have just letters there. So you can have an array, and then again you can say list. List 3, or let's create a new one, list 4. Okay, list 4 is equal to arrays dot as list, and then here we can give the array. Okay, so here we give 3 objects, 3 strings. Here we give the array. Okay, the array, and then that's the same thing. Of course, you have to say list because you're creating a new variable. And then again here, you can print the elements. You can print the elements, but you cannot add. So list 4 dot add, and then add z there. And then try to add something. Again, the same thing. You cannot add, but you can set the first element or the second element or the third. Let me do 0 this time. So you're changing the first element or the index 0, and then here, oops, of course you're not printing 3, but you're printing list 4. Okay, and then you see zhi. Okay, this is the 4th. So this is the 3rd way of initializing. Okay, but we said that this is mutable. Okay, let's write it here. Creates a mutable, or immutable, sorry, immutable list. Okay, So you cannot add elements. Okay, so here let me just say here list3 dot add, and then here x. This one won't work, give exception. Okay, just I'm commenting out for you for your reference. Okay, but you can change any of them, but you cannot add any there. Okay, so this is this one, but we can, of course, we can overcome this one. We can say list of strings list of string, and then let me call this one list5. List5 is equal to new array list. So this creates an object, and then you copy the elements there. Okay, so array list, and then here you can say here arrays as list. Okay. Okay, so these are a little bit of tricks there, maybe too much information, maybe you don't want that, but anyways, if you want mutable list, we have to give the array we have to give the list to the new array list. Okay, so we create an array list, we have to create a new object. Okay, new array list object. So I'm just going on. Are you guys with me? Are we okay till now? Just I want to make sure that you're following. I'm not talking to myself. If there's anything that is flu, just let me know so that I can go through it. Okay, just let's not skip it. Okay, thank you, the ones that answered. So this one, as you can see, it prints, of course. Okay, there's, let me just say here, let me use this way. Okay. Okay, because I don't want to print. So as you can see, we printed GHI here, and then can we add there? Of course, list5 dot add, and then let's add Z, and then if we print list5, as you can see, Z is added there, so there is no problem with adding here. So this way, they look similar, but this one just creates the list. And then actually there is also another problem here. There's another problem here. So this array here that has 3 strings and this list here, list4, they're pointing to the same array. Okay, that's why you cannot add anything, but you can only change. So how can we, so what does it mean? Okay, so if we change the array, okay, let me not change the Z here, but so you have an array that has GHI, right? So it has 3 elements, and then you're adding something to this array after you have created the list from the array. So here we print list4, and then we're changing, after we print list4, we're changing the array, and then we change the first element of the array, or the 0th element of the array, and then we make it Z, right? So what are we doing here? So we pass the array to the, we created a list, but actually we didn't create a list. We just pointed to the same one. Why? Because after we print this one, let me just comment out this other things. Otherwise, that will be very, because they are the same, and this one here. So here, as you can see, I changed the array and made the first element Z, and then the same thing happened to the list. As you can see, I printed the list. So let me print the list before changing array, the array. and then I changed the array, I printed the list, I changed the array, and then the list after changing the array. And then as you can see, this was the list before changing the array. I didn't change the list, I changed the array, but as you can see, the list is also affected, and then also the list. So that's why you have to be careful. This way, you're changing, if you change the array, you're changing the list, but this other way, let me comment out this one here, and then you can uncomment there and check whatever you want to check later. This is the second one, and then again, the same comments here. The list before changing the array, okay, and then comment out this one, and then let me change the array. Okay, I also can give the array here, right? So I had the array. Let me open this one, and then let me use the array here. Okay, so arrays as list. So I'm using the array here. And then now even if I change the array, so I say array 0th element is equal to Z, and then print the list, as you can see, list doesn't care. So the list after changing, so the list before changing and the list after changing, they're the same. So this is the list before changing the array. Let me also print this one here. Okay, so the list before changing the array is GHI, the list after changing the array is GHI. So we don't care about array. You can change the array, the list will not. Why? Because we have created a new object. We have created a new object, a collection, and then we have just copied. It's called deep copy or whatever, shallow copy. Okay, so we have copied the elements. It's not pointing to the same one. And then another way, this is in Java 9, so it will not work here, but in Java 9, we can say, let me just copy this. So this is, let me call this one the fourth one. Okay, works only in Java 9. So it will not work in our case because I'm using Java 8, okay? So list 6, and then we can say new array list. Array. So again, the same thing. If we say new array list and give it there, so we create a new object. If we just say equal, then it is the same object. So you should be careful, okay? And then we can say list of, and then here we can give the array. List of these objects, these strings, but of course this one will only work in Java 9, okay? So that's why we cannot initialize this way. This will only work in Java 9. That's why I'm commenting this one out. But in case that like your team is using Java 9 and they're using this way, this is another way of creating a list of strings. And then the same if we have other objects, if you have integers or students or whatever, it will work the same. Now I'm just doing list of strings. All these examples are initializing and collection of strings, okay? A list of strings. Okay, and then another way is, the last one is, you have a collection and then you could create a second collection from the first collection. So we have list 1 here. So I don't want to create it from scratch. You have list 1, so you can say here. So let me just say here, fifth way, and maybe there are other ways that people know. Initialize. I'm so lazy, I don't want to write initialize. Initialize using another collection or another list, okay? Collection. Okay, so we say list of strings. Again, we want a list of strings. It can be any other object. And then list 7 is equal to So again, the same thing, okay? So if we say list 7 is equal to list 1, what do you think, guys? What happened here? If I say list 7 is equal to list 1, if I print, no, sorry, I'll use print element, right? I'll use this method. So you can start thinking about it. So if I print list 7, and also I can, you know what I should say here, print list 1. Otherwise, if I don't say this one, and then print list 2. Oh, so I have to say system out, right? Okay. This method accepts a list, doesn't accept a string. Okay. So if I print the elements here, and then as you can see, list 7 has the elements that list 1 have. Okay, you see, you're copying the elements. So what is your guess here? What happened here? What is the problem with this kind of? It is printing. I'm printing the elements of list 7. I don't care about list 1. I'm printing the element of list 7, and as you can see, these are ABC. So I have initialized it. But what do you think? Do you guess there is some problem here, similar with what we just did earlier? So I'm saying list 7 is equal to list 1. So what if I change list 1? List 1 dot add, and then I add Z here, right? Whenever I want to add something, I say add Z. Okay. So if I add Z and then I print the list 7, what do you think? What will be in list 7? Do you have any guesses? I said list 7 is equal to list 1, and then I just added something into list 1, and then now I'm printing list 7. What will be the elements of list 7? I'm waiting for your response, okay? List 7 does not accept, no, that's not accept Z. I'm adding Z to list 1. And then probably, yeah, if you can try or if you can think about it, even if I added this one to list 1, this is also added to list 7. Why? Because there are two variables. This is list 7, okay? I added Z to list 1, but Z is also added to list 7. Why? Because there are two variables, list 7 and list 1 are two variables pointing at the same object. So there is an object, an array list of strings, A, B, C, and then even if you change list 7, list 1 will be affected. If you change list 1, list 7 will be affected. That's why we should use new, sorry guys, new array list and then you give the collection, okay? So this one, you're creating a new array list and you're giving the list 1. So if I change list 1, this 7 will not be affected. Why? Because you're creating, so you had list 1 and pointing to an object which has ABC, a collection of strings, and then now you're creating a new object, it has ABC, these are copied here. So if you change something here, this one will not be affected because they are two different things, okay? So let's try. As you can see, list 7 is ABC, but if I print list 1, it will be ABCZ, right? So list 1 is affected, but list 7 is not affected, okay? So that's why you should be careful. You should create a new object, a new array list, and you're copying the elements. Otherwise, if you just say list 7 is equal to list 1, yes, list 7 has list 1 elements of list 1, but there are two lists pointing at the same object. So both of them will be affected. Okay? Okay, so these are different ways of initializing array lists, okay? And then we just created a method here, which just you give a list and it prints the list. Till now, I'll just copy, I'll just push this code so that you have it, okay? And then I'll give a 10 minutes break and then we can continue after 10 minutes, okay? So let me just push the code so you can have it, and then if you want to try something, you can try. Okay, so. Okay, so I push the code. You can pull the code, and then you can try something if you want to in this. I mean, if you want to see something during this 10 minutes break, and then, okay, we also can give a. Let's give an example, right? So let's have an example for my notes. Okay, so let me create. So let me create a new class and then name it remove duplicates, right? Okay, and then of course I want to import java.util and then whatever is inside there. I don't want to import them one by one because I'm lazy. And then here, let me give you a task. So you have a repeating array list. So let me give you the array list here. Okay. Array list of integers. List is equal to new array list of integers. Okay. And then here we say, let's use one of the ways here that we used to initialize arrays as list, right? This one. Okay, here we can say array. So this one is copying the elements. Okay, so it's creating a new object. Okay, and then of course you cannot enter strings, but you can enter integers. So 10, and then 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 10, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5. Okay. And let me also have a 6 here, so something that will stay. Okay, so we have an array list with integers, but there are duplicates there. So can you please implement a method? Implement a static method that removes the duplicates from the list. Okay, so if there are, let's say, okay, let me also push this code so that you have it. Okay. Yeah, so do you have a question? Yeah, so there are different ways of doing it. You can use a hash set. You can use other things. So whatever is duplicate there will be removed. Okay, so even if you find a way to do it with a hash set, so I also suggest you to do with a loop. Okay, so try to use a loop. Of course, using the hash set is the easy way and the best way. But also, I suggest you to use a loop, and then if it's there, just remove it. Okay, so if this list has this element, just remove it. If it's not there, just put it in the new list. Okay, so you can create a new list, and then it will only have the unique values, not duplicate values. Okay, but also hash set is a good way of solving it. Okay, so what time is it? It's 8:02, so 8:12. Okay, 8:13. Break until 8:13, because I think it's 8:03 now. Okay, whatever. 8:12 then. Okay, thank you. I know that it is before 8:12, but I cannot stay without you, so I have to come back. So I changed the break to 8:10. Okay, so let's just implement it. Okay. So as one of the students mentioned, she says we can use hash set, right? So that's one way. But there's, okay, then let's say if they don't allow you to use hash set, then you have to implement it, because sometimes they come with the restrictions. Try to do this one, and then you do it, and then they say, okay, just do it without using this one. Is there another way? They want to see that if you're able to do it in different ways. Okay. So let's say you have the list, and then and then of course you have to call the method. Okay. So let's say remove duplicates, right? Duplicates. Okay. So to this method, you just give the list of integers, right? Or array list, because we used array list here. So array list of integers. So that's one here now. So you give the list, and then this will return the new list, right? New list. So you give a list, and this method will remove the duplicates, and you return you a new list. Okay. So let's just implement this method. Public, and then if you don't want to use the object, you have to say static, so that you can directly use the method. And then this method gets an array list and then returns an array list. Okay, so what does it return? It will return the new array list, and then also takes an array list. Okay. Let me call this one old list. Okay, and then it will return a new list. Okay. Okay. And then of course, so what we'll do, we'll create a new array list. Array list of integers. I just want to copy this one because I'm lazy, and then call this one the new list is equal to new array list of integers, right? Okay, or we can just remove this one. Okay, and then at the end, after we do the changes, very good, then we return the new array list. Okay, so as of right now it is empty, so we'll have to loop through the old list and then copy only once. Okay. Okay, let's see how you implemented it. So very good. So if it contains, you don't have to remove. You can just, I mean, since you're creating a new list, just if it contains, just don't insert there, and then if it doesn't contain, just insert. Okay. But that's very good. So you can use a for loop, or you can use an iterator, right? So any of them, that's the same thing. So you have to loop through the list, you have to loop through the old list, and then just insert only once to the new list. Okay, so again, if we loop the old list, sorry, which is a list of integers. Okay, so what will we find there? We'll find integers. Okay, integer, and then number n or q or f, whatever, and then of course you have to do the check that you did. Okay, so you say if new list, okay, if new list contains the number, Okay, the integer, if it contains, you will not add it. Okay, so if it does, so you'll add it only if it doesn't contain. So if the new list doesn't contain, so this means the new list doesn't contain the number, then you add it. Okay. Okay. So if it is in the new list, don't add it. If it's not there, just add it. Okay. So you say new list dot add, and then you add the number n, right? So if it's not there, add it. Okay. Or you can say if not, skip, else add, but the same thing. So this is only if it's not there. Okay. And then for each element, you'll check, is it there? No, add it. Check another one. Is it there? Yes. Just continue. Is it there? Yes. Don't do anything. Is it there? No. Okay, add this one. So you'll only add the first time. Okay. And then return the new list. Okay. So this is the method. So this method gets an old list and creates a new list and only fills it with not with unique values, not with duplicates. Okay. And then returns back the array list. So also we have said here that this method has a return type array list integer. So you give the list, and then whatever it's returned from here, you assign it to the new list there. Okay. Or let's say no duplicate list. We can say no duplicate list. Okay. And then just print it. We can just print the list with no duplicates, and then just run. And then as you can see, the elements are inserted only once. Okay, so if you inserted 1, and then you inserted 10, and then you come here, this is 1. Is it already there? Yes, just skip it. 2, insert it. 2 again, is it already there? Yes, just skip it. 6, add it, and then that's how you continue. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. The second way is using hash set, right? So you can use hash set or linked hash set. So if we use hash set as you did, as one of the students did there, the order will not be saved, right? But we want to save the order. Why? Because let's say they want us to save the order. So 1, 10, 2, 6, 3, 4, 5. So you don't want to change the order. If we just use hash set, the order will be changed. Yeah, you can use linked hash set. Okay, they're both the same, but linked hash set keeps the order. Okay, so again, static. Okay, and then this one also returns returns our array list, right? The same as this one. So let me just copy this one, okay, because I'm lazy. And then remove duplicates using linked hash set. Okay, you'll see that this one is pretty easy comparing to the first one. Why? Because in the first one, this is also easy, but you have to implement the logic, right? Like loop there, if it's there, insert. If it's not there, insert. If it's there, don't insert. So you have to like think. But using linked hash set or sets in general, it's very easy, right? So how you do it? Set, and then of course, if we have an array list of integers, you also have a set of integers. Okay. Okay, call this set equals new linked hash set, and then you can just directly insert there, or say set dot add all. So this is a method. Okay, this is a method that the list has, sets also have. Okay, so this is a method which you add the collection to another collection. Okay, so you have a set, you're adding the elements of old list. Okay, so you're adding the elements to the set, and then this one, of course. So what are the properties of set comparing to the list? The set doesn't Yes, say it, Aman. You were typing something. I'm going to wait for you to type it. Okay, maybe you were saying something else. So what are the properties of set? Set doesn't, one of the things is doesn't allow duplicates. So if you're adding the same element again, it will just disregard it. Okay, so if adding 2 and then add 1, okay, and then add 2 again, it will disregard it. So that's one of the things. And the second thing is doesn't keep the order. But that's the beauty of linked hash set, that it is a set but also keeps the order. Okay, so now we added all the elements from the list to the set. Of course, it will not contain duplicates. If you want, we can just print. Let's just print it here. Print set, just to make sure that, and then return. Okay, let's finish this one first. Or let's say return null, right? Return null, because you have to return something with this method. And then if we run it, of course, we have to use the second method. Okay, so we're not using the first method now. Let me just copy paste like this. Oh my God, I cannot copy paste. Okay, so this one is using the first method, and I don't want to use the first method. I want to use the second method. Okay. Okay, so let's run. Of course, then here we are just printing null because it's returning null. So here, as you can see, print here, what it's doing, just printing the set. And then if you see, I run, print the set has these values, 1, 10, 2, 6, 3, 4, 5. So already has removed the duplicates, okay? And then now that we have the set, we can just give the set back because we're returning an array list. We cannot return. Can we return set here, guys? What do you think? Just me. Why is this giving me an error? Why is it giving me an error? Why I cannot return set? What do you think? Do you have any suggestions? My New Jersey students, you know about return types and everything. What do you think? Why I cannot return set? Because it's a mismatch, right? So this method is promising saying that I will return an array list of integers. This one is a set of integers, so they're not the same types. Okay, so return type is not the same as the return here is not the same as the return type of the method. Why? Because this is a set of integers, but we're expecting an array list of. So if I said I expect collection, then it would work. Why? Because collection is a parent of array list and collection is a parent of set. So if I say collection, then even if you give a set, it would work. You see, that's why you need to know about polymorphism. So here we're saying I will return a collection of integers. Is array list a collection? Yes, it is. So I can return array list. Is set of integers or linked hash set or hash set or whatever, are those collections? Yes, they are. So I can return. But if I say I want to return an array list, then now here you have to create an array list, or you know what? We can just clear the old list and then just fill it, right? Old list dot clear. So this clears the old list, and then old list dot add all, and then again we add the set here. Okay, so add all is a method which let me go up here, and then I think again. So collection has an add all method. You can see here collection has an add all method. So that's why array list is a collection, Of course, because array list implements list, which is a collection, and then hash set is a collection because hash set implements set, which is a collection. So that's why add all is a method that set has. I mean, objects that implement set have add all method, and objects that implement list have add all method. What do? They take a collection, and then you can add that collection to myself, okay? And then now I can return the old list, which is an array list, okay? So what did I do? I created a set, I added the elements of the list to the set, and then now they're unique. And then I cleared the old list, I cleared the array list, and then I added the elements from the set back to the list, and then I'm returning the array list. And now you see the elements are at the same order, okay? Okay, so you can do it different ways. Sometimes they put you restrictions, they say, okay, just do it without using sets, and then you have to do the other way, okay? But they're both accepted. If they just want the result, they're both accepted, okay? And there, so also, I think you have heard about collections class. So collection is an interface, which is the parent of list and set and stack. But also collections is a class. This is a helper class, which helps us manipulate collections, okay? So let me just create a new class here and say collections demo or example or whatever. Okay, so again, the same thing, import Java util, and then also main here, okay? So these are things that I always forget, now I don't forget. Okay, so let's say we have a list, of strings, right? Let's say we have the example, okay, let me just close this others. So we have a list of strings, right? List of strings. There can be other object here, but we're using string because it's easier. Otherwise, you have to create an object list and then new array list, okay? Array list. And of course, the parenthesis for the constructor. Okay, and then you add like a couple of countries, okay? List, add, and then France. If you want, you can suggest any countries. I will take it. List, add, and then England. And then list, add Italy, right? If you have any countries, just let me know. I can add your country. Okay, so this is a list of countries, right? And then let's just print the data inside the list, okay? So this is the initial list values, okay? List. And then if we print this one, of course, we have France, England, Italy, 3 countries there, okay? Nobody suggested me any country, so I didn't add your countries. Okay, so we know that we had add all method for the collection, right? For the list and for the set, but there is also a collections. So collections here, as you can see, this one is not the interface. This one is an object, is a class. It's a class, and this has some methods that we can use. Okay, add all. So this one adds some elements to the collection. Okay, so first you say the collection. So you say I want to add to the list, and then I want to add some elements, right? So again, nobody is suggesting me any country, so I just type some countries. Germany. So this method is a method of collection class. This one is not the collection interface, which is implemented by list. Thank you so much. Okay, let me add some country. Okay, so you're adding a couple of countries to the list. Okay. Okay, this is the last one. This is a method which adds these strings, these objects, because these strings are objects, to the list. Okay, and then let's print the list. So after adding elements. Okay, so as you can see, this was the initial list. This is the list after adding elements. So collections class has an add all method, and there are a lot of methods. We'll go through a couple of them just to see that this one can help us do some jobs. Let's say if we want to reverse an area list, right? So what do? You go and then get the first one and then create a new list and then get the last one, put it at the beginning. So you go from the end to the beginning and then just add the elements, right? So this one way. Or also you can use collections.reverse, and then this one will just reverse your list. Okay. Okay, so and then collections add all also accepts. Let me just put these two countries first, and then put the others in a string of arrays. Okay, so string of arrays and then string array equals, and then you can put the countries there. And then let me also put the United States because we are here also before Albania. See, United States comes before Albania. This is a big thing. And then here, so you can add, so collections does add elements or also add in an array, right? So add an array to the list. Oops, sorry, it's inside main method list, and then you can add the string array. And then you can print after adding more elements. And then if we print this one, as you can see, all the countries are in the list. Okay, so add all is a helper method, let's say, and it accepts objects or it accepts a string, an array of objects. Okay. Okay, what else? We have, let's say, somebody asked you to implement a method that gets the minimum and maximum numbers in an area, right? You have a list. Okay, you have a list, and then they ask you, can you find the minimum and maximum elements in a list? And then you go through the list, iterate the list, and then find the minimum and find the maximum, right? And then there is a method, but we don't need to do it because collections class has a min method and a max method. Okay, so let's add some integers, list of integers, and then call this on list2. So these are a couple of methods of collections class. So collections class is not the collection interface. Okay, this is a class which helps you manipulate the lists or the collections in general. Okay, and then equals new array list, as we always do, and then we add a couple to that, right? List2 dot add, and then we copy like a couple of numbers here. Okay, so let's say 46, 67, 8, 12, and there can be a lot of numbers there, right? And then, as I told you, you can just loop through the list and try to find the maximum and minimum. Yeah, that's a method that you can do. But since we have collections class, this one allows us, of course, if they don't allow you, if they don't let you use the collection class, then you have to create a method which implements the finding the minimum and maximum in the list. But if they allow you, you can use collections class, okay? So maximum is, and then just print. So we use collections dot max, okay? So that's a method. And then you just have to give the list here, list 2. Okay, and then the same for minimum. So minimum is, and then just collection dot min. Okay, so this is a method that you can also implement. You can create a method like this, but some other guys have done it for you. You can just use it. Okay, so collection class has a max method which takes a list and then just gives you back the maximum value in that list. Okay, and then if we run this one, and then you see the maximum is 67 and then minimum is 8. Okay, so these are some helper methods of collection class. Another one is sorting, right? So sorting, if they ask you to sort a list from the lowest to the largest, or like from the smallest to the largest, or from the largest to the smallest, so you have like to implement bubble sort or other like sorting methods, but collection has already implemented it for you. Okay, so let me just sort. I don't want to create a new list, just we have these numbers here, and then we say list 2 dot sort. Okay, and then if you give numbers, it will sort the numbers in the incrementing order if you don't give another parameter. Okay, so just give list no, sorry, collections, not list 2. Collections dot sort list 2. Okay, so you're saying collection method, the collection class has a static method. You can see because it's intended, but also since you're not creating an object, it definitely is a static method. Okay, so if you go there, it is a static method. So it accepts a list of an object and then it sorts it. Okay, and then let's print after sorting, and then just let's print list 2. As you can see, after sorting 8, 12, 46, 68, you see it just sorted for you. It's pretty fast, right? Okay, and another thing is you also can sort text, right? So let's say you have an array list. Okay, you have an array list. And then, of course, array list of what? Array list of strings. That's what I'm trying to do, to sort strings, right? And then let's call this one list 3, right? List 3 equals to new array list. So we have different ways of implementing, different ways of initializing. So we can use add, or you can just say array. Let me do this one, right? Arrays dot. I learned this one, and then I have to use this one, right? As list. And then here you give a couple of strings here. Let's say John, Alex, then Tim is my preferred because it's so short, and then Ray. Okay, and then I can sort I can sort. So I say collections. Okay, so I use collection class. I use sort method. Okay, oops, sort method, and then I give list 3. Why 4? List 3. I give list 3, but also I want to sort them not from A to Z, but from Z to A, right? Like descending. You know, if I probably use descending in SQL. So collections dot reverse. Okay, I want to order them in reverse. Okay, so if I, and then of course after I reverse and I sort them, I have to print the array, right? And then print the list, right? List 3. Reverse order. Okay, so let me just print this one. So in reverse order, so you have Tim, Ray, so it just sorts them alphabetically, right? But in reverse order. So there are also other methods. If you go to collections class, and then there are a lot of methods there that have been implemented for you, or you also, like you see, shuffle is a method that if you give a list, it just shuffles it, okay, randomly. And then you have the order, you have swap, which you swap 2 elements in a list, and then a lot of copy, which copies a list into a new list. So there are a lot of methods. Okay, so collections class is a class that has some methods implemented, and these methods generally are used to manipulate collection. Okay, to manipulate list or set or other interfaces that extend collection interface. Okay, so this is different from collection interface. Okay, so now that we give a break, I just want to give you an example. So I'll give a break for 10 minutes. You can give a break yourself. You can eat something, pray, do whatever you want. But there are students that want to do something in the break because they are like eating and doing something. So that's why let me just ask you. Let me ask you in class, and then call it list of lists. Like if you remember, we did map of maps, list of maps, maps of lists. So these are different things that you can use. Okay, so import java.util, and then not one class, but all the classes inside Java util, and then of course the main method. Okay, so create comment, create, let's say three lists of integers, and then add all these lists into another list. So I mean, you have 3 lists, and then you have a list of lists, okay, to another list of lists, okay, and then you can iterate them, try to print, then iterate and try to print all the lists. Okay, using nested loops. Okay, so what time is it? It's 8. So I'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes. How much? What do you think? 10 or 15 minutes? Okay, break until 8:55. Okay, it's 8:44, so 11 minutes. 11, not 10, but 11. Okay, I'll be back in 11 minutes. Yes, cool. Okay, I can copy paste this one to add elements. But I asked you, very good, we did 92% of what I said. I said to use, iterate them, print them using nested loops. So you have to do a loop inside loop, okay? So let's just, so the first list, so we created a list of integers, okay? We created a list of integers and we added a couple of integers there, right? We added a couple of integers there. And then we created another list of integers, and then we just printed, and then we just printed, we just added a couple of integers, and then the third list we added integers. Okay, so we have three lists: list 1, list 2, list 3. Okay, and then now, okay, so probably the question was not understood very good. So now I want a list of lists. Okay, so it is list of lists of integers. So we have a list, and then inside the list we have multiple lists. Okay, so this is list of lists. Okay, so let me call this one lists, and then is equal to new, and then array list, and then of list of integers. So this list, what does this list here has inside? This one has lists of integers. So you can have, so we can say lists dot add L1. Okay, so we added the first list in the list, and then lists dot add L2. So we added the second list in our list, and then list 3. This is not copying the elements there. It is adding a list of elements inside. So it is like two-dimensional arrays. Okay, so add, and then we add the third list. So now this list has inside 3 lists. Okay, so there's another way of initializing lists. So you can say here, let's say int n equals 5, and then we say we have an array of 5. So it says that at the beginning, just create an array list that accepts 5 elements. And of course, if you add it, you can add more, but at the beginning, you already know that you have at least 5. So just don't create a list with 1 element and then add another one, so it will recreate the list. It will do a lot of manipulations. This one ensures that the list has 5 spaces at the beginning, and then if they're added, and then you can add more. Okay, so this is an extra thing there, but this one doesn't have to do with the topic. So now here we have a list which has inside 3 lists. Okay, so each of the lists have multiple integers. Okay, and then after we're done, we can iterate the list. Okay, so how can we iterate the list? We can iterate it with a for loop, with an enhanced for loop, with a while loop. Okay, with an iterator. So let's iterate this one with a with an iterator, right? So so when I loop lists, guys, when I loop, ladies and gentlemen, when I loop list, what will I find? So every list there, L or list, is of type what? What is the type of the list? Can somebody tell me? If I'm looping this list, what will I find? Integers. What is there anybody who thinks different from Javid? Yes, list of what, Lola? Array list, or array list of what, Ali? Integer. Okay, sum of people. Yes, so it has a list. So you say whatever is inside here. So this list has inside this type. What is this type here? This can be an object, which is an integer, a string, an object of country class, or student, or employee, or whatever classes that we have, or it can be a list of lists, because list is also, this one is also a class, right? Actually, it's an interface, but anyway, so it is a list of array list in our case, okay? So that's why we can just copy this one here and say, okay, when I iterate this list, I will find list of integers, or I'll find array list of integers. Okay, that's the same thing, because list is the parent of array list. Okay, so now I'm iterating this list, which has lists inside. Okay, so for every list there, I can yes, it's an outlier, too late, but you can just type and then for every list here, I can print the list. Okay, so I can print the list. That's the first thing that I can do. Okay, so this will print the lists, which is the first one is these integers, the second one has these integers, the third one, so there are 3 lists there. So if I print this one, if I run this one, so as you can see, this is the first list, this is the second list, and this is the third list. So when I iterate this list of lists, for each of them, I'll get a list of integers. Okay, but I want it to iterate it in a less nested loop. What do I mean? So I want also to iterate this one inside. Okay, so I'm iterating the outer list, which is the list of lists. Now for each list inside, I want to iterate. So I can iterate with a for loop or with an iterator. Okay, so let me do it with iterator. So we're doing it 2 different ways. So the outer loop, I'm using an enhanced for loop to iterate the outer loop. Okay, advanced or enhanced. So this is the advanced for loop to iterate the list, but also I can iterate the inside loop, the inside list using iterator. Okay, so iterator of what? So it will iterate strings, because now I'm iterating this one. I'm iterating the list. Okay, so this one is a list of, not strings, of course, integers. Iterator of integers. Okay, and then call it iterator or iterate it, whatever, and then list dot iterator. Okay, so when I get the iterator of this list, it will iterate integers. Okay, the outer one was not so let me do the outer one again. Okay, before I go in the inner loop, let me do the outer loop using iterator. Okay, so iterator. So if I iterate, if I get the iterator of the list, if I get the iterator of the list, this is an iterator of lists. Okay, so here we have to be careful. Okay, so let me call this one iterator, and this is the outer iterator, is equal to iterator dot, okay, iterator of lists. Okay, I have to put the parentheses here. Okay, so I can use the iterator, or I can use this is equivalent to this for loop here. Okay, and then here, after I get the iterator, I can say while, I'm just making this one a little bit more complex now. Okay, while iterator dot has next. So again, we're saying if there is a next, we can get the next. If it's not, then you cannot get, okay? While there is one, iterator dot next. And then if I get the next element, what is the next element in this list? The next element in this list is a list of integers, okay? So this is a list of integers, and let me call this one list, okay? So I'm iterating the same that I've done here. I'm doing with an iterator here, okay? I'm not doing something else. So, and then just print the list, okay? Just print the list. All right. So whatever I was doing here earlier, I'm doing it now here, okay? So I'll print every list. I'll print every list inside the list, okay? So here the same that I did with the for loop, I can do it with a iterator, okay? So this is iterating the outer loop, okay? Now just let me comment out this one, okay? This is the same as iterating with a for loop, okay? So now that I'm inside here, so for each list of integers inside the lists, so I can get the iterator there. Iterator here, as you can see, is a list of integers. Iterator here is an iterator of integers. So that's why I have to be careful. Whatever is inside the list, that's what also inside the iterator, okay? And then while this iterator, which is the iterator of the list inside, it dot has next, but again, they're the same structure, the same way, and then it dot next. Okay, in this case, what is the type here? What do you think, guys? What is the type of this one here? Can I have a couple of suggestions? I'm iterating the lists inside the outer list. So I'm entering the list. I got the first list. Now I'm iterating the first list. So what do I get? I get integers, right? Very good. So integer, and then I or n or whatever. So I'm iterating the inner list, which has integers. So that's why this is iterator of integer. So whatever I get there is an integer, okay? And then I can just print the integer. So print it, print I plus, let's say, space, okay? Or comma or whatever we want to print. And then here, of course, not print line because it will print it. So let me print the same list in one line, and then when I'm done with this list, just let me put a new line. Okay, did everybody get this one? So here I'm at the outer list, which has lists inside. So when I go inside, I get one of the lists, I'm iterating it, and then when I'm done with one of the lists, I just put a new line. Okay, so here, as you can see, so I finished with the first list, and then I entered new line, and then I came back here. Now I've got the second list, and then I'm iterating the second list. I'm printing at all the elements of the second list, and then I print in a new line, and then I come back here, a third list, and then that's. So I can do for loop, and then for loop and iterator. I can do iterator and for loop, or I can do for. I can do iterator. All of them work. That's the same logic, okay? So I'm iterating the outer one first, and then the inner ones, okay? Was it clear? When we don't iterate, just print list. Where do the null values come from? I didn't see any null values. Were there any null values? So let me just, okay. So let's just print here, you're saying, okay? So saying print the list, right? Lists. Okay. When you print it, there are three. You see there is a list which inside has three lists. 1, 2, 3. So probably you have done it differently. You have not added the list, but it says add all. So if you say add all, is different method than add, okay? If you say add all, it is just adding all the elements in the list. Okay, so here probably you're using add all. Okay, let me just, I don't know, add all and then collection. Was it add all? Yeah. Yeah, but because probably also the definition here is not a list. So to say add all, this should be like this. So I'm just changing it, guys. Don't get messed up, but just let me show. If you use add all here and then list, so I'm making multiple changes. So now you have a list of integers, and this one you get the elements of the first one, you add there, you get the elements of the second one, you add there. Okay, in this case, if you run, there's something wrong here. Array list, of course. You in this case also have to say array list. I'm sorry I made these changes, but new, of course, new. Okay, whatever. Let me take it back. Okay, sorry guys, I made some changes here. I'll take them back. We don't need it. Okay. Okay, in this case, let me run it again. In this case, okay. So we have the first list of integers, the second list of integers, the third list of integers. Okay. In this case, this one is not a list of integers. This is a list of lists. Okay, so you should be careful. Whatever is inside the brackets. So you have a list of lists. So you can add lists in this list. Okay, and then you add the first list, the second list, and the third list. Okay, there are 3 lists inside a big list. And then here, if you see this is the first list, open and closed. The second list, open and closed. The third list, open and closed. Okay. But I don't want to print it this way. I want to go through it and then iterate it. Okay. So let me just remove this one, and then, or let me also leave it there and comment out. Okay. You can also use that one if you want to. So now I'm just iterating. In this case, I'm iterating the outer list. I'm iterating this list. If I iterate this one, I will not find integers. If I iterate this one, I'll find list of integers. So I'll find 3 lists inside, 3 lists. So for each list inside this big list, I can just print it, or so here I can print it if I want to. Let me print this one. So I print the list, but also I iterate it. Okay. So if you see here, so this is the list. I print it here, and then I also, when I iterate the list, I print each element. Okay, so that's why there are 2 loops in here: is the outer loop and the inner loop. Okay, I can use iterator, I can use for loop, I can use whatever I want. Okay, hopefully it is all clear. Is anybody who has any questions, or is it clear? What do you think? Clear. Okay, Ali, what do you think, Ali? Clear? Okay, very good. So let's do now, we did a list of lists of integers, right? I want to do, if you remember last time, we did the continents, and then in each continent we had the countries with the capital cities, and then we just loop through the continents, and then we'll loop through. So let's have another similar to that one. So let's have list of lists. So let me just create a new class. It's the same as this one. In this one, it has list of integers. In this new one, it will have list of strings. Okay, countries demo. Okay, we did that one earlier, like a couple of weeks ago, but we did it with the maps. Okay, now we're doing it with lists. Okay, import java.util. Okay, and then of course main. You see, guys, I'm learning. Okay, so let's add a list of strings, right? We can have a country object, and then in that country we can have the name of the country, the capital city, and then the population. We can have different information, but I'm just doing list of strings to make it easy, just the name of the country, okay? And then, because it will be complicated. And then this one, let me call it Europe. And then this is equal to new array list. And then let's add a couple of countries, right? I'll copy paste this one. Okay, so let's do France, doesn't matter. England, and of course Albania. Okay, with capitals A. And then, so this is a list, and then we can just print. It's very easy. Thank you for reminding me. And then another list of again of strings. So this can be any objects. Okay, we're using strings just to make it faster and easier, but this could be any list of any objects. Okay, Asia equal new array list, and that's the same for set, right? The same for set and the same for hash set and linked hash set. Okay, so Asia dot add, as you can see, this is not a map, so I cannot add the country and the capital city. I can just add an object, which is a string, which is the name of the country. Okay, so I cannot add like in map. Okay, so what did you do in Asia? So we added last time China, I think, Pakistan, and India. Okay, very good. Pakistan and India. Is it okay if I leave Pakistan and India close to each other, because I don't think they like each other? Okay, list of strings, and then Africa equal to new array list again, and then let me add a couple of countries in Africa. Yeah, you have to learn Indian, man. Probably you know a little bit. So Africa dot add, and then last time we did Kenya. Kenya, South Africa, and then Egypt. Maybe there are some students from Egypt, so, and Somalia, right? So, and also we can have another continent, which is America and whatever, or South America, North America, because they're two different continents. We can continue, but let's just do 3 lists, okay, of strings, okay? And then, you know what? I don't want to leave. United States outside, so that's why I'm going to say list North America, and then I'll add a couple of countries, and then US, Canada, and also Mexico, right? Mexico. Okay, so now again, I want a list of lists. We did with list of integers. Now we do with a list of strings. Okay, so we say a list of not strings, but a list of lists. So be careful here. Thank you. After I did it, you helped me. Okay, and then let's say, let me call this one world is equal to new, and then array list, and then this one helps me automatically. So array list of strings, okay? And then of course initialization, and then parentheses. So now in world, I can add Europe, Asia, Africa, and then North America. Okay. So we have a list, which is world, which has lists inside, okay? Is there anything wrong with my North America? No, it's correct, okay. So now I'll push this code. Do you want me to give like 5 or 10 minutes and try to iterate? 24, of course, yeah, thank you. Yes, so because I'm still adding to the Africa, right? Africa list. Thank you. So now that I have first list, second list, third list, fourth list of strings, now I have a list which has lists of strings inside. Okay, so do you want me to give you 10 minutes and try to iterate this one with 2 loops like we did with a list of integers? Let's try. Okay, I'll push the code. And what's the problem here? Oh, and yeah, we don't need this one. Okay, so I'll push the code. Okay, the code is there. So 10 minutes, okay? We're trying to loop. You can use any iteration, okay? You can use advanced for loop, and then inside that one, another advanced for loop or iterator, whatever you want. But just be careful with what is inside, okay? Okay, so it is 9:22. I'll give you 8 minutes, 9:30. Not break, but work until 9:30. Okay, not break. Careful. So I'll give you 8 minutes. Okay, I guess some of you finished it. Okay, so do you want us to print it in by using iterator or for loop? I'll use both the same inside each other. So both for loops, advanced for loops, or both iterators. What do you want, guys? Which one do you prefer? Advanced for loop. You don't like iterator, huh? Okay, so to make your life difficult, I'll do iterator. Just kidding, just kidding. Okay. Okay, so let's do a for loop. Okay, so the outside for loop will iterate the world and will find continents, which are a list of integers. Okay, so I say for each continent in world, right? Okay, so the world is a list of lists. So what is continent? Is a list of strings, right? So here, not strings, is a list of strings. Okay, so when I iterate the world, which is a list of something, I'll find this something there. Okay, so I'll find list of strings. Okay, so I'll not find strings, I'll find list of strings, because I'll find whatever is inside the list. You see what is inside the list is list of strings. So when I iterate the list, outside list, I'll find list of strings. You should be very careful here, because sometimes it might be complicated. If I can have a list of maps, or a map of maps, or a list of lists, or a map of lists, whatever. Okay, so I'm iterating the world, I'm finding list of strings. Okay, or can be countries, but I don't have any country object. Okay, so if I just print it here, I'll print the continent. Okay, so it will have the array. Okay, so if I run this one, it has the array. Okay, so 1 continent, 2 continents, 3, 4. Okay, but I don't want to just print the array list as it is. I want to iterate through this array list. Okay, now so I'm inside the list. I've found multiple lists. Okay, just I'll comment out this one. So now I say for each country, let's say country in continent. Okay, what is continent? Is a list of strings. So if I iterate this one, what will I find now? Now I'll find string. Okay, string. Okay, so now that I found the country, okay, I can just print it. Okay, just let me copy paste this one because I'm lazy. Okay, and then here I'll print the country and then some space. Okay, so here, as you can see, of course I want to print all the one continent in one line. Okay, so I don't want to print different lines. So if I print everything in one line, you see it will be everything in one line, but I want to put a new line after each continent. Okay, so I'm here, I got the first continent, I print all the countries. So after I'm done with one of them, I just print a line. Okay, so I'll print the new line and then get the next continent, print the countries, and then new line. Okay, so that's why here you see is one continent, the countries, second continent, third and fourth. Okay, and of course, if this is a list, as you can see, the order is preserved. So first I added the Europe, and then it's first, and then Asia it's second, Africa is third, and then America, North America is the fourth. Okay, but if I say not a list of strings, but if I say here is a set here. Okay, so I can change it to set, and of course you cannot say a new array list, but you can say new hash set, right? Hash set. Okay, and then inside the hash set is list. Okay, so you can have list inside list, or in this case, I put list inside a set. Okay, so the first one here, when I iterate the world, I'll find the list of strings. So I'll find this one here, or this one here, and then inside that, so everything is okay. But the order here will not be the same. If you would just run this one, as you can see, so African countries are first, not European countries, and then Asia, and then North America, and then Europe. You see, so the order changed, but the countries inside didn't change. Why? Because that's a list. Okay, so I have a list inside a set, so I changed it a little bit. Okay, it's not a list inside a list, but it is a list inside of set. Okay, but the same thing happens the same. So I'll just implement this one for your reference using Iterator. If you don't want to look at it, if you hate it, just don't look at it, but I have to do it with an iterator. Okay, so again, the same thing here. I'm iterating the world. Okay, so world is the list of lists. Actually, it's a set of lists. Now I change it, so a set of lists. Okay, so now I say, okay, iterator is a list of strings, is whatever inside the set. Okay, so I'm iterating the set the same way, and then this is iterator equals world dot iterator, right? So the iterator will give me, even if you go there, you see it will show it to you that is a list. It is returning a list of strings. Okay, so iterator of list of strings. So iterating list of strings. Okay, and then here you can say again the same logic, while iterator dot has next. So make sure that it is a next, then you loop to the next, and then you say iterator dot next. So oops, not has next, but next. So if I'm iterating list of strings, what will this give to me? Even if I go here, it says it will give you a list of strings. Okay, so it helps you if you hover through the method. So we say continent. Okay, so now I'm iterating the world, I'm getting the continent, and then here, after I got the continent, I can just print if I want to, but I don't want to print it. Okay, so this is the first way using for loop. This is the second way using iterator. Okay, so I'm just printing the continents, but I don't want to print the continent as a list. I want to loop through inside it. Okay, so I don't want to print it here. I just will iterate through this one now. So I have continents. I'll get them one by one, and then I'll loop through it. So again, I use iterator, and then inside I'll find strings. Okay, this is a country equals to continent dot iterator. Okay, so give me the iterator, which has is an iterator of strings. Okay, and then again, while the same thing here. This is very, very easy. While okay, let me call this one iterator 2, okay, or inner iterator. Okay, inner iterator. Okay, so I'm iterating the continent. Okay, so while inner iterator, the first one was outer, the second one is inner, dot has next. While it has next, you will get the next. Okay, so it's a inner iterator dot next, and then if you go over here, it says what will it give me back? It will give me back a string. You see here, it will give a string. Okay, so string, and then country. Okay, so you have to be careful with the names, otherwise you'll get messed up. Okay, so iterating the continent, you'll find the countries, and then just print the country. Okay, just print like this. This is the same thing. Okay, so even though they look different, they have the same thing. If you iterate, of course, after iterate a continent, I'll just want a new line. Okay, so again here, new line, and then print. And as you can see, all the countries in one continent, and then the order is changed. First, Africa, Asia, North America, Europe. Okay, you see the order change because that's a set. Okay, so I'll comment out the iterators because you don't like it, and then I'll uncomment out for loop. Okay, because you like it. If you leave both of them, you can leave both of them. They'll print the same thing twice. Okay, so that's why. Oops. Okay, so let me comment out this one, and then just run, and then print it with using the for loop. Okay. Okay, so we use the countries demo. Okay, so let's say we have a, okay, we have too much. Okay, so this is the last example. Okay, this is the last example. I have an employee class, and then I have a list of employees. Okay, or set, doesn't matter, a collection of employees, and then I want to print the employees list in the reverse order. Okay, so let me just do another new class reverse employee list. Okay, okay, of course I want to import java.util, and then I need the main here. Are you tired, guys? You're so tired that you don't want to answer, right? Okay, so let's have an inner class here. So let's have an inner class. I can have, okay, you know what? I don't like inner class. I mean, I don't want classes inside here. Let me have a new class and then call it employee. Employee. I'm just gonna do it fast because this is not very the main point. So this employee has an integer, employee ID, and then a string, employee name, full name. So we don't have first name, last name, just employee name, and then string department, right? Department. Okay. Okay, and then we have a constructor here. We create the object of the employee using the constructor, and then the constructor, I want to force to have all of the employee. Okay, I want all of the information to be in the constructor. So I want an int, emp ID, a string, emp name, public, of course, and then another string which is department. Okay, and then of course, since the name here hides the class variable, you have to say this dot emp ID equals to emp ID, and then the same this dot emp. This is not our topic. We have done this one. Emp name equals to emp name, right? And then this dot department equals to department. Okay. So we created the object, and then also I'm going to write a method public string to string. This method will just print the information, which is return emp ID You can use emp ID or this emp ID. You don't need to use this here because there is no hiding. There's no local variable, and then emp name plus emp name, and then the department plus department. Okay, so we have this class which is the employee class. Okay, so let's come here, and then now let's create an area list. We can create set, we can create linked list, whatever, but area list is the most used. So area list of employees. As you can see, you have to use a class. So you can use string is a class, integer is a class. We cannot use primitive type integer. Now we're using employee class. Okay, so array list of employees, which are objects of employee class, and then employee list, right? Employee list equals to new array list of employees. And then of course we start adding employees. Okay, so we can create the employee and then add, or we can directly add there dot add, not add but emp list dot add, and then you just create a new employee, and then of course you have to give the ID. Let's say 101 name, Tim, Tom, I don't know names, and then department IT, right? IT department. So you created an employee and added to the list. Okay, so probably all of you know it, but just I'm reminding you. So you're creating an object and adding to the list, or you can do it in 2 steps like this. Say like this, employee emp1 whatever equals to new employee. So you create the object, assign it to the variable, and just use the variable here. Okay, so this is one way. The second way is just you directly create an object, and so I'm creating the second employee. The ID is 102, and then this is John Smith, and then he's from marketing department, and then another employee, I'm just copy pasting, and then 103, and then LeBron James, right? And then from sport department. Okay, so I created three employees, and I added to the list, right? So now I have a list of 3 employees. So if I just print it here, list dot to string. Okay, no, so not list, employee list, not employee list. You have to loop it. Okay, so if we print employee list, okay, so we have employee 1. So this is the first employee, this is the second employee, and this is the third. So let me just also here in the employee, let me put also some space here, right? Okay. So first employee, second employee. So as you can see, this one prints the object. Since I have this toString method, so this is also a new topic, let's say, but toString method is a method that object class has. So whatever you put in toString method, if you print the object, it will use. So if I just remove this one here, it again uses toString method here. So it will just print the object. So the type of the object and the ID. So object 1, object 2, object 3. toString method is a special method. So if you use toString method, this is automatically using the toString method of each object there. So let me use actually a for loop here so that, or you know what, print elements. Let me do a method. So we have a static method, so public static print elements or print employees, right? Employees. So this, let me see if students did they start to leave? Okay, print employees. So this method will get the list of employees, okay, emp list, or let's say list one, because you don't need to use the same name, and then this will just print it, okay? This will print. So for each employee in list. And then of course void here because you're not returning anything, okay? So I did it a little bit fast. Now I'll go through it step by step, okay? So I have a method which gets a list of employees, and then it will loop through the list, and then we'll get the employees, and it will just print the employee, okay? So just print the employee like this, okay? Or employee.toString. Okay, so you're running the toString method of the employee class, okay? So here you say print employees and give the list here, okay, which is emp list. So you have a list, you have a list of employees, you fill it with employees, and then you give it to this method, okay, just print this list, okay? And then this method will get the list, loop through it, and will print the toString method of each employee, okay? So let me run this one. So as you can see, this is first, second, third, okay? And as I told you, toString method is a special method. If I just remove toString, it will use again the toString method, okay? So if I run this one, again we'll print the same thing. If I use here not toString, but if I say, let's say display info, okay, run, and then if I come here and say employee.display info, it will work, okay? It will work. But if I remove toString display info here, if I remove this one will use the toString method, the default toString method of the object, okay? So if I run this one, this object has a toString method which just prints the ID. So it's irrelevant data, right? But if I use toString here, toString, which is a special method, now as you can see, it overrides. Now I'm overriding the toString method of the object, of the parent object, which is object class, and now I'm just printing it, okay? Too much information, maybe you don't need it. So now I have a list of employees and I print the list, okay? This is the list. Now some space, and then here. So I have the list, employee list. So I can use what we learned earlier. We said we have the collections class, and the collections class have multiple methods, okay? So you also have the reverse, right? Collections dot reverse, right? Or you can say sort and then use reverse, or just you have the reverse method. So this one is expecting a list. So give the list here, and then after you're done, so you printed the list, you printed a space, you reverse the list. Now let me print the list again, okay? So this one is the list in reverse order. Let me just say list, employee list in reverse order. Okay, so if I run, this is the employee list. Now, as you can see, the employee list in reverse order. So it just reversed it didn't sort. It's don't mix this one with sort, because sort, it sorts integers, it sorts strings. If you want to sort employee class, you have to like implement a comparator thing. But this one, it just reverse the list. So there was a list of objects, it just reversed. So it was 0 index, 1 index, 2 index, it just changed. Now it is, that was 2, now it's 0, 1, 2. Okay, so it just reversed. Okay, what time is it? 9:45. So also I'll give you a link. I found an interesting question in HackerRank. I don't know if you have ever dealt with HackerRank. I'll give you the link. Okay, I'll give you the link, and then you try to solve it. And then, like, I'll send my solution in a couple of days. But of course, there are a lot of solutions, as long as the result is. So I'm sharing it in the Slack live questions. Okay, so that is the problem. If you want, you can click there, and then let's just read the question together. So the most important part of solving questions is understanding the question. If we don't understand the question, I can also put now the question here. If we don't understand the question, then we have things. So we'll have list arrays. Okay. I mean, you can read it yourself, but I'm just gonna give you a hint there. So you have multiple lists. So this is list 1, list 2, list 3, list 4, list 5, how many lists there are. And then you just print the third element of the first list. So you're trying to print 74 here. And then print the fourth element of the third list. So this is the fourth element. So not index 4, fourth element. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or let's say third element. And then the first element of third list. And then if there is, in this case, we have list 5 with just 3 elements. And then if you're asked to print the fifth element of the fifth list, you just print error. Okay, so if you have to be careful, you have to use the same thing, like error with capital letters and what is this, exclamation mark. Okay, so I'll give my solution in a couple of days, maybe on Wednesday. You can try during these days if you have time. So HackerRank is a good site where you can have questions and try to solve them in Java, or if you like other languages, you can do it in other languages. But anyways, so this is a question. So the question is, the first number, it's scanned, it's 5. Okay, so it means that there will be 5 lists. Okay, and then the first one says, is the first list have 5 elements. Okay, so you have to create an array list with 5 elements. The second one is a list with 1 element, a list with 4 elements. So the first number of each row is how many elements are there. And then here we say we have a list with 0 elements. Okay, so there are no elements in the list. A list of 3 elements. After we're done with 5 lists, then we say, okay, I want 5 queries. Okay, 5 queries. So I want the third element of the first list, just displayed, system print out. Okay, the fourth element of the third list, the first element of the third list, the third element of the fourth list, and the fifth element of a fifth list. If there is no fifth element of fifth list, you just print error. Okay, and then you can try to submit the code. Okay, I'll put the first part where you read the elements in an area list, and then you just do the other part where you're supposed to print the third, first, fourth element of the list. Okay, guys, I hope you liked the class today, and then have a good one. Okay, good night, guys. Good night.